Hiding a multi-million-dollar liability behind a procedural redaction doesn't make the debt disappear. It just delays the inevitable forensic liquidation of your career.
Press is reporting the Department of Justice has subpoenaed New York Attorney General Letitia James. The AP reports it's related to the civil fraud case against President Trump and a case against the National Rifle Association. Now, James sued President Trump in 2022, accusing him of misrepresenting his assets by billions of dollars. She won, but the case has been appealed. James just released this statement saying any weaponization of the justice system should disturb every American. We stand strongly behind our successful litigation against the Trump Organization and the National Rifle Association, and we will continue to stand up for New Yorkers' rights. We also reached out to the DOJ, and they declined our request.
We are witnessing a systemic audit failure in the office of New York Attorney General Letitia James, where the primary defense against criminal scrutiny has become a recurring technical default on the constitutionality of her prosecutors. When the chief legal officer of a state is currently skating on the fact that her investigators weren't Senate confirmed, she isn't proving her innocence. She is simply redacting the evidence of a potential material breach of ethics. This isn't just a legal battle. It is a high-stakes, hostile takeover of the justice system, where the rule of law is being traded for procedural loopholes. We are documenting the moment where the audit trail of Letitia James has split into three separate ledgers: a tossed mortgage fraud case, an active insurance fraud referral, and a newly reinstated appeal regarding her pursuit of the NRA and Donald Trump. I am Camilo Motado, and this is Camilo's House. As a certified public accountant and forensic auditor, I approach these headlines like a distressed asset review, where the management discussion does not reconcile with the physical evidence. In a standard audit, if you find that a managing director is refusing to disclose their source documents, tax returns, while facing allegations of falsified entries, mortgage applications, you immediately issue an adverse opinion and flag the entire entity for systemic risk. Today, we are performing a prosecutorial integrity audit on Letitia James. We are analyzing the materiality of the John Sarone appeal in the Second Circuit, the disclosure deficit of her tax returns at the Somos Conference, and the cumulative liability of her multiple criminal referrals. This is the final reconciliation of a legal career that is currently hedged on technicalities rather than truth. The operational trigger for today's volatility is the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which is currently re-evaluating a criminal investigation into Letitia James that was previously written off by a lower court. From an investigative standpoint, the materiality of this case is tied to the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, VRA. Acting U.S. Attorney John Sarone issued subpoenas directly to James regarding her weaponization of the civil fraud cases against the Trump Organization and the NRA. However, a federal district judge previously liquidated the subpoenas, ruling that Cerrone was unlawfully serving because he hadn't cleared the Senate confirmation hurdle. In accounting terms, this was a management override of internal controls. If the person signing the audit, the subpoenas, doesn't have the certified authority to do so, the entire transaction is void. But the Department of Justice is not ready to close the books on this investigation. They have appealed the devaluation of Cerrone's authority, arguing that the FVRA allows for a grace period during presidential transitions. During oral arguments, the Second Circuit appeared sharply divided. Some judges suggested a retroactive authorization, essentially a post-closing adjustment, where the government fixes the error after the fact to preserve the subpoenas. Other judges expressed critical concern that such a workaround would liquidate the Constitution's controls on executive power. As a CPA, I track the consistency principle. If the government can backdate authority to justify an investigation, then no compliance standard is safe. If Letitia James skates again, it will be because the board of directors, the Senate, failed to verify the appointee in a timely manner. While the Cerrone audit is tied up in the appellate pipeline, Letitia James is facing a massive transparency default regarding her personal financial ledger. During the Somos Conference in Albany, the New York Post requested disclosure of her income tax returns, a standard verification procedure that Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Governor Kathy Hochul have already certified by making their returns available to reporters. James's management response was a total non-responsive disclosure. She perturbed the press by claiming the decision to release her tax returns was up to her staff. In forensic terms, claiming that your communications director, Alexis Richards, has the sovereign authority to decide if the public can see your source income is a red flag for material omissions. Why is this lack of disclosure a material fact? Because James is currently facing verified allegations that she falsified information on mortgage applications. As a forensic auditor, I know that tax returns are the ultimate reconciliation tool. They verify if the inflow reported to the IRS matches the asset valuation reported to a bank. If James is refusing to turn over the ledger, it suggests that there is a material variance that could impair her professional standing. You cannot audit the Trump organization for misrepresenting assets while hiding your own debt and income from the public stakeholders. Her refusal to show the receipts while glad-handing at a political conference is the definition of operational hypocrisy. We must also audit the cumulative liability of her legal portfolio. Letitia James is currently staring down 3 separate criminal accounting cycles. 1. The mortgage fraud case, previously tossed because prosecutor Lindsay Hallen was found to be unlawfully serving. This was a technical win, not a merit-based exoneration. 2. The NRA, Trump lawfare case, currently on appeal in the Second Circuit. If the court allows retroactive authority for John Sarone, the investigative inflow of subpoenas will resume immediately. 3. The insurance fraud referral, an active criminal referral to the DOJ regarding potential dirty deeds in her insurance internal controls. When you amortize these 3 cases, you see a managing partner who is over-leveraged by scandal. She claims her office is standing up for New Yorkers, but the audit trail suggests she is weaponizing the justice system to hedge against her own risks. Her defensive narrative that any investigation into her is a weaponization of justice is a non-responsive hedge intended to redact the facts from the jury pool. In the world of forensic verification, an oath of office is not a shield from scrutiny. It is a guarantee of transparency. By refusing to tell the Post why she won't release her returns, she has defaulted on that guarantee. The FVR Federal Vacancies Reform Act argument from the DOJ is a critical systemic update. They argue that hobbling the executive branch during transitions by requiring immediate confirmations is policy insolvent. They want the court to validate the widespread practice of using temporary first assistants to maintain continuity. But for Letitia James, this general statute has case-specific consequences. If the Second Circuit rules for the DOJ, then the NRA criminal case returns with a vengeance. The grand jury will have the certified data it needs to determine if James committed abuse of process, a material default that could liquidate her career. My forensic verdict on River, sir. The 2026 Letitia James update is that the New York AG is in a state of permanent receivership. She is systemically avoiding the audit of her own finances, while her prosecutorial authority is being doubted by federal judges. The tax return redaction is the smoking gun of a material misstatement in her personal finances. Whether she skates on Cerrone or Hallen, the cumulative debt of her ethical failures is accruing interest every day. The Somos Conference glad-handing cannot write off the criminal referrals that are currently pending review at the DOJ. The audit of justice eventually finds every cooked entry, and Letitia James is running out of technicalities. I want to hear from you. Is the staff decides defense for tax returns a valid management response, or is it the forensic signature of a total transparency default? Should the Second Circuit allow retroactive authority to revive the NRA case, or is that a systemic risk to the Senate's oversight controls? Let me know in the comments. Your perspective is the only audit that matters when the integrity of the law and the trust of the taxpayer are sitting on the negotiation table. I am Camilo Motado, and this is Camilo's House. Subscribe to stay informed on the numbers, the laws, and the truth behind the headlines. Stay safe.